Hi, I'm Marcus Fairs, founder and editor-in-chief of Dezeen, and welcome to day 3 of Dezeen 15, a digital festival celebrating Dezeen's 15th birthday. As part of this, we asked 15 creatives from around the world to come up with ideas of how to change the world over the next 15 years. Over the coming days, they'll all be presenting their manifestos for a better world. Today, we're speaking to virtual fashion designer Amber Slooten about her ideas. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Marcus.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yes. And you?
I'm good. First of all, tell me about your earrings. Looks like you're wearing virtual earrings.
I am. This is our collaboration together with Artifact. And we've created a Snapchat lens that anybody could wear in their Zoom meetings, or anybody that want to go, they can start wearing these earrings, and they're created just by data.
So how does it work then? Have you got a special filter on your camera that you're broadcasting with?
Yeah, so it's a Snapchat lens. So anybody can download the software. It's called Snapchat Lens or Snap Lens, and you're able to install it on your webcam, and then you're able to wear the earrings. Yeah.
Okay, move your head a bit so we can see how realistic or how crazy they are.
They actually go pretty well. Wild.
And this is something that's free or people can buy?
Yeah, you can just find it if you look for Artifact, RTFTK. The logo is here. We designed this together with them. And yeah, you can find them on the Snapchat lens, and then you can start wearing them to Zoom meetings and many other things. If you look for the Fabricant on Snap, you can find many of our filters there as well.
I wish you told me in advance, and I could have been wearing some as well for the interview.
But it would have been really cool. We have this nice corset dress. I think it would have fit you very well.
Oh, right. So there's more than just earrings that you can get for the filters.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll try that on. Why don't you do me a fitting afterwards with the corset dress?
Super nice.
Anyway, this brings us on to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. My name is Amber Slooten, and I am a co-founder and creative director of the Fabricant, which is a digital-only fashion house. We make clothes that are like always digital and never physical. And yeah, with that, we try to create a new narrative for the fashion industry. So we try to create a new way of looking at how we wear and share and interact with clothes in the future. Because, fashion sort of needs a new way forward, and we're trying to create that using technology. So we don't have to limit our self-expression, but we can actually express ourselves endlessly using the digital world and this new technology, because that's just really exciting.
Amazing. And tell us, where are you speaking from right now?
So I'm in Amsterdam right now. So I think I'm 1 hour ahead of you guys. And our studio is here. We call Amsterdam as well like digital fashion capital of the world, because there's a lot of things happening here regarding digital fashion. But yeah, anywhere could be digital fashion land because it's virtual. So yeah.
Okay, so you've written a manifesto for Dezeen 15. We published it on Dezeen earlier today. It's about looking forward to like a manifesto for fashion that's more inclusive and more equitable for everyone. Do you want to share your screen with us now and present us your manifesto and your ideas?
Yeah, sure. I will try and see if I can do that. There we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So first, I'll give you a bit of background on who we are as the Fabricant and how we came to be. We are a digital-only fashion house. And with that, we create clothing that basically will never exist in our physical reality unless we use things like Snapchat lenses or filters to present ourselves. And we think that the future of fashion is digital, because the way that we are really going about the fashion industry right now is just not the correct way. And there's still a lot of like intense clothing production, more and more collections being made every single year. And to us, that is in a way not the way that we should move forward into the future, because it is wasting resources and the pile of clothes is getting bigger every single day. So we, in a way, thought about how can we still create clothes without needing to have to push for more collections and new things, but how can we use technology to still be able to express our identity And especially since our lives are becoming more and more digital every single day, like we've seen in the pandemic, we're basically addressing our digital identity every single day. I'm talking to you now via a virtual medium, and most of you are watching this online. So our digital identity is becoming more and more important every single day. And I'm a traditional fashion designer, so I come from a traditional fashion design background, but always felt like that the digital identity was misrepresented in the fashion world, and a lot of people didn't see that connection between digital and fashion, and how that could integrate, and fashion and gaming. People didn't see the link, but actually the link is very substantial, because a lot of brands are, and a lot of gaming companies are selling virtual goods already for a very long time, and people are paying a lot of money for those. So we thought it was the perfect marriage. And we started the Fabricant in 2018, releasing our first digital-only collection that was played in 3 different places in the same week. We didn't need any models, we didn't need any photographers, we didn't need any sort of material to create this. We didn't need to ship the collection. We all created this from our studio in Amsterdam. And our idea is that within this virtual space, you can create as emotional resonance as in a physical space with any virtual creation that you're creating. We want to say with that, we waste nothing but data and exploit nothing but our imagination. This is one of our sort of key sentences, because obviously data is still wastage, but at least it's not valuable resources that end up on a pile of clothing and landfill that just keeps on getting bigger. And fashion is all about expression and creating that new language without speaking, a language without words. And we think that we shouldn't impact the planet with our vanity, but actually create a new system where we can do that endlessly. This is an example of where we actually set out to sell one of our dresses, because you might think right now, well, how do I wear it, or how do I even interact with digital fashion? Like, what does that even mean? And digital fashion has actually existed for some time. More and more experiences are created. And this dress that you see here is actually the very first dress that ever was created on the blockchain. So you might know about NFTs, or you might have heard about NFTs. And I mean, if you don't understand it, I mean, I also understand it's very difficult to understand because it's not easy, but it's very technical. But what it basically says is that there's a unique piece of code linked to this garment, which makes this garment unique. And this garment was sold off on an auction at an Ethereum conference. And there it was basically sold off for $9,500. One person paid $9,500 for this, which was a massive moment because suddenly people saw, hey, there's value in digital goods, there's value in digital items. This was before all the digital artworks got so much money like we've seen last year with NFTs. This was all before that. So suddenly people saw, hey, there's a market for this, there's actually value for this. And that's when digital fashion really started taking off into the mainstream. And that's when it's been sort of created more and more and more. And this person wore it on her Instagram. So this is Johanna Juskowska. She wore it on her Instagram, where millions of people saw her wearing it. And maybe on the day itself, she was walking down the street and maybe 50 people saw her wearing like the sort of normal attire that she was wearing underneath this, but millions and millions of people saw her wearing this look digitally. And then again, I'd love to ask you, like, what is the difference anyway, right? Between, if we have our virtual image, that's almost more important than our physical one. And it resulted in a collaboration that actually went on to, so this is actually one of the things that has been moving through the fashion space, and many people have become interested in digital fashion, especially since the pandemic. And it resulted in Vogue asking us to create the first ever digital fashion or digital cover of Vogue that ever existed as an NFT, which is going up for auction soon. And this is again a sort of proof case of that the movement is gaining traction. And the headpiece you see there, you can actually also wear on the Vogue Singapore Instagram. So you can go to the Instagram right now and immediately wear that item. You don't have to wait for anybody to ship it to you. You can immediately interact with it. And next to that, there's the amazing thing of basically creating this wonderful way of interacting with our clothing, in which we are able to basically create new ways of interacting with snap lenses, like you see here. This look you can actually also wear on your Zoom calls if you wish to. So this is the corset dress that I was talking about, which is a collaboration we've done with Ruby Gloom, who's an influencer who you see on the left. And yeah, it's just really sort of amazing to see that immediately you can wear these items. You don't have to wait for anything. And there's utility to them, and there's no fabric, or there's no actual fabric being created. Now I'd love to move on to the manifesto that we've written, because we believe that digital fashion is the tool that creates accessibility to everyone to be able to create fashion. And that is to us massively important. Like, we are not going to create this movement alone. It is a movement that is necessary to be done with all of the people who are interested in this movement. And the fashion industry won't change unless there is a big movement that can substitute and create this new world. And we see it really as a fashion world 3.0, where we will enable a future where millions of creators have stores composed of garments and material collectibles ready to be worn and sold in the metaverse. If you don't know what the metaverse is, maybe you've seen the whole Facebook posts and everything that's been happening around there. The metaverse is the virtual world that we're going to live in and already are living in, as we are now talking to each other on screen as well. So we're creating a new ecosystem where everyone profits and is accessible to anyone, which I think is very, very important. So I'll read the manifesto as well while I show some images. So imagine a future that belongs to creators. One where we remove history's gatekeepers and build a new economy where our financial rewards are finally equal to our talent. In this future, a kid in Dakar stands as much chance as a kid in Paris in becoming an influential fashion force. With the tools to create their ideas and to bring their ideas to life, and a network of supporters that promotes and distributes and sells their work. Artists will become the tastemakers, curators, and patrons of each other's work, determining a value of creativity on our own terms, instead of a century-old ideas of worth calling the shots. Ending competition by bringing forth a new network of interconnectivity. We'll call it the Renaissance, a new era where one another's most vocal cheerleaders, giving back to our fellow creators while raising one another up and enabling those with less resources. The X is whatever you'd want it to be. It's the chromosome we all share, and that unites us. Collaborations will happen in real time across the planet, digitally connecting to build multi-creator pieces that gave each of us the chance to be recognized and monetize our efforts in the long term. We'll dare to become self-sufficient, turning our backs on the systems and institutions that seek to define the rules of engagement so they can maintain a status quo that works inevitably in their favor. With this future in our own hands, we can make our own strategies, our own currencies, and our own structures, building autonomous organizations committed to making this equitable for all participants. The endless toil and hustle won't just earn us a living, but contribute to building a new creative economy that gives back to us as much as we give to it. Imagine if all of this was possible right here, right now, and a viable plan actionable through technology and creative determination. This is not some misty-eyed creative fantasy. This is the reality available to all of us on blockchain, crypto, and the global market of NFTs. We're committed to making this decentralized environment central to everything that we do. As our co-creators, your participation is not only required, but essential to making it happen. Together, we have the power to build the creative future we all deserve. Let's unite in our divide and come with us into the realm of the endless possible. because it's going to be a wild ride. So yeah, I guess this is about a lot of things that I've shared, but the basic premise is that we're building a platform where people will be able to endlessly create digital fashion, working together, and creating real-time garments across the planet by a new system which is called the Fabricant Studio that we're currently building. And the garments that you see here are part of a real-time experience of our first show that we did in our first iteration of the platform. And you can also see that you can then wear these clothing in games. So you can see the sandbox acid, the sort of voxelized or pixelized character with which you can immediately start wearing the garments that you create on our platform in games. And in any sort of other way by AR filters or any interaction that you would like to create in digital fashion. So I think that is, for us. So for us, it's very important to say that fashion does not need to be physical to exist. I guess that is everything I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Do you want to unshare your screen now?
Yes.
So amazing. I know you had been working on that manifesto anyway before we got in touch with you about our Dezeen 15 festival. So are you going to be publishing that, launching that in some bigger capacity?
Yes. So we're currently working on creating sort of the massive plan of launch for the platform, let's say. And we're talking to a lot of different brands and creators, and together with them, we're basically building this sort of new future. And the idea is really through this technology of blockchain, you're able to create unique items and monetize of them. So that's why we're saying suddenly anybody can become a fashion designer and can interact with digital fashion because we will create the tools for them to do so. And we're definitely going to spread it further this year, and it's going to build on a lot of ideas that we have for the future, which is all about how we can stop wearing more physical clothes, but transitioning towards a more digital identity and digital sphere in which we can start wearing AR filters and anything like that. And it can become accessible to everyone. That's the idea.
And this line in your manifesto that, a kid in Dakar could have an equal opportunity to be a famous fashion designer as a kid in Paris. Is that already happening? To what extent are these technologies already allowing people that maybe don't have privileged backgrounds to make it?
Yeah, so basically anybody who has a computer can enter. So the idea is that you're able to basically, if you have a computer, there's resources out there in which you can educate yourself on digital fashion. And we've seen from many parts in the world that literally receive digital fashion coming from everywhere. And I think that is the beautiful thing. For our last season 0, we had creators coming from places like we had places like China. So we had one creator from China. We had one creator from it was, I think, Nigeria, and we had another creator from Germany. And those 3 creators went onto the platform together with us, and they were able already to monetize their craft through the platform itself. And we see digital fashion coming from everywhere, which is super interesting because suddenly you as a creator have the power to start a fashion collection. And normally you would have needed millions of euros to start that fashion collection or to create this new vision for yourself. But because it's digital, you're able to create that with much less resources. You just need an internet connection and a computer that runs. And obviously I know that not everybody is as privileged in the world to actually have a computer or an internet connection, but at least the people that do are able to interact with it and start selling their digital fashion immediately.
You mentioned just now that you want to encourage people to wear more digital fashion. And did you say, and wear less real fashion? Is it kind of a way of giving people an alternative to running out and buying endless clothes that they don't really need?
Yeah, totally. Because I think in a way, the system that we have right now is basically set up for failure, because all of the sort of waste that is there is not going to be taken away, right? It's just going to remain there, and it's just going to stack and stack and stack. There's brands that sit on millions of pieces of clothing that haven't sold because it's not trendy anymore, right? So yeah, there's just a lot of things happening that need change, and we know that fashion is a very pollutive industry, and just buying new clothes and just all the time going out there to buy things is not the solution for a sustainable future. And we think that if you still want to express yourself, that we shouldn't limit that, because fashion is self-expression, and it's who you are as a person. It is what you want to be. It's a communication without words. It's you expressing your emotion and who you are. But can we also do it digitally? And I think with the technology that is coming up, especially talking towards the future, it's very much about understanding what technology will allow us to do. So if you look at AR lenses now, right now we see them through our screens and through cameras that we interact with, or through our laptops. But very soon we will have lenses and glasses to look at each other and to interact with the world, which will replace our phones, but will create a digital layer on top of the physical world, which will allow us to decorate the space around us as humans. And identity basically is this space around you. So you could choose to wear a dress that's very uncomfortable and unpractical, but you can still wear it in the digital space. And that's the most interesting thing about this new medium, is the fact that then everybody would be able to see you wearing those items, because it's like your Instagram profile right now. That's very 2D. You scroll through it, but you're curating it, you're creating that. But in the future, like, you will have a lens or a glass and you look at someone and you can see them wearing digital items or digital clothes. And like that, acceleration is just gonna become more and more and more. And with things like the metaverse developing, we'll need to clothe those digital bodies. And maybe if we can express ourselves there will be less need for wanting to express ourselves in physical reality, and we could move to wearing something that is very comfortable and very durable, that will go with us for a long time. I'm not saying that the physical fashion will disappear. I just hope that it will become something that is more durable, more sustainable, and then in the virtual world we can go absolutely crazy with what we would want to wear.
Does the fashion industry see you as a threat then?
Yes and no. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for brands themselves as well to jump into the digital fashion space, because for me, like, if you don't see how beautiful and how much potential this medium has as a brand, like, to me, that is some education that you'd need to do in understanding, because it's actually way more resource effective to not have to create your clothes in a factory, but to be able to make them on a computer. It's more time effective, cost effective, and it's more immediate. So to me, it feels much more fashionable, because it's very much of this moment rather than 6 months or 12 months or 24 months down the line, because a lot of brands operate on that level where you'll have to predict what the world will be like in 1 year or 1.5 years from now, and you don't know that. So in a way, it's a more immediate way of expressing yourself. And yes, we see, I think in the beginning, a lot of people were threatened by digital fashion. They're like, oh, you're going to take my job and blah, blah. But I think right now it's becoming more and more apparent that the fashion brands are also excited about this new world, and that they're also like, hey, what can we do in this? What's our presence in the metaverse? And how can we create a new system? And to me, the challenge is then, how do you limit your physical resources? And that's sort of our challenge on how we communicate that. But I think a lot of brands are getting excited for the metaverse, because they're seeing a lot of things happening there as well.
That's a good point that you make, that in theory, in the metaverse, trends can happen immediately. Like in the real world, obviously the fashion industry has got better at delivering clothes more quickly, so they can respond to trends, but it still takes months or at least weeks. Have there been any examples of fashion trends in the metaverse that people start to copy each other like the same day?
Yeah, totally. I think trends work very different in the metaverse. It's like someone sees something and the next day, or maybe the next few hours, they're already posting this. So one example was for instance, the whole Facebook Meta launch, where Mark Zuckerberg was floating through his wardrobe and showing the sort of different looks that he was wearing in the metaverse. And all of the digital fashion companies jumped on top and created a meme out of it, which was showing that Mark wearing way more interesting looks than he was showing in the actual video. So people were actually creating for that moment and creating new interaction with it and looks for that. And I think that's the exciting thing about it, is suddenly these things move way faster, and they go, they can get successful overnight. The same is like with NFTs, for instance. If a collection does well, you don't know what's going to happen. But if it does well, it can become successful overnight, and literally in a few hours, and you can be a millionaire overnight. And this is a new sense of value that a lot of people don't yet understand. But it is really something that can create a better system for everyone. And yeah, like I said, it's moving way faster, and sometimes even too fast. So that's really like, how do you sort of balance that out? Because we think that meaning is still very important, and emotion, instead of creating that. But I do think if you can speak to the moment right now, that is also very fashion, because that is communicating that language immediately.
I mean, the concept of the metaverse, most people hadn't even heard of it a few months ago. And now suddenly Facebook has announced that it's rebranded itself to call itself Meta, and that the metaverse is its big new opportunity. Does that worry you a bit? Does that mean that the metaverse might now suddenly become a kind of corporatized space with Facebook in control? It's a bit like the internet was like a Wild West 10, 15 years ago, and now doesn't have that same freedom anymore, does it? It's very corporatized.
Yeah. I mean, I do, of course, I have that fear, but I think for me, it's also, I think for us, how we see it as well, is that suddenly the metaverse became mainstream. And with him sharing this new vision, suddenly a big part of the world knew what the metaverse was, and it was pushing for that to go towards this sort of new space. And he is bringing it to the masses, which I think is great for development. But I do think that decentralized systems at some point will win over centralized systems. And I'm not sure when this shift is going to happen, but I know that if the power is at the people, in the hands of the people, that they will grab that, and that it will, to me, I think it will cross the boundaries of corporate life, because DeFi really has the opportunity, decentralized finance really has the opportunity to create these new systems that don't need a centralized entity. And that's the most exciting thing about this, is that suddenly there's nobody anymore regulating that or creating those kind of systems. And we'll see what happens with Meta. I think, it's great that they're pushing for that. I think it's been Mark's vision from the beginning to do something like a physical space out of Facebook, and maybe a lot of people will use it, and that's great. But I do think there's also a lot of opportunity in decentralized worlds, because decentralized, you just have more brains working on it. You just have like a lot of more input, rather than one person deciding, well, guys, we're going to do this. You have a whole community that can decide on that, and they can make decisions together. And these are called decentralized autonomous organizations, that are like companies built on systems, DAOs, that decide on these things together, rather than one person deciding it by themselves. And I think this is where we're moving into the future.
Of course, another thing that people have become aware of in the last year or so is the massive carbon footprint and the massive amount of waste from the physical fashion industry. How close are you to the physical fashion industry, and are fashion brands trying to do something about that? They're all saying they want to become more sustainable, but do you see evidence that it can?
It's a difficult one, because a lot of brands are trying, but to use recycled polyester, it's not going to help, because right now I've even heard that the pet industry has gone up, because so many brands are asking for recycled plastic to use in their garments. So that's not helping. Also, because it's way more difficult to recycle a plastic garment, so polyester garment, than it is to recycle a pet bottle. So in a way, they're trying to do stuff, and the same is for like for instance, like ecological cotton. People say like, oh, it's ecological, so it's good, but it's still using the same amounts of water, and it's still sort of wasting a lot of material. So in a way, I think there's a lot of things happening in the industry. People are aware of it, which I think is great. But I don't see the massive change yet. And I think this is still something that needs to come. And it's also because there is no solution yet. There's no sort of way for them to do that. And we think that becoming more digital is a really beautiful way of creating that new answer. But I think a lot of brands are very tied to the physical reality and to how we express ourselves there. And I think I hope that people will think less about like having to create new collections every single season, but maybe creating things that will last you a lifetime. Sometimes I have garments that I wear like every single day, or garments that I have in my closet for 8, 10, I don't know how many years, because I don't care about trends or those kind of things. It's more about, who are you as a person, less about what does this fashion brand tell me to wear that is cool. Now, who are you as a person, and what do you want to express with yourself? How do you want to communicate to the world? And as a consumer, you can also create a more sustainable way of interacting with fashion. And I think, if we also change our behavior as consumers, it will also help the brands to recalibrate, because if there's less ask for these kind of brands to create more clothes, even producing on demand would be maybe even a solution, but still then you're wasting materials. So yeah, it's a big questionable thing, and I don't have the answer, like the big answer for it. I just know that like how we think digital will help is at least to start getting brands interested in this new revenue stream and this new way of interacting direct to consumer. People can immediately interact with your products and use them, and maybe that will get them excited to change things. But we also understand it's a big ship, and big ships don't suddenly change course. They need sort of a while to shift around. And yeah, we're doing everything we can to get them excited about that shift and to see if we can move towards that future together.
I can understand why they might be threatened, because that would mean less profit for them, no more fancy stores in expensive streets in city centers, no more physical runway shows and things like that. It kind of threatens their entire current business model and all their supply chains.
Yeah, but it could also become all digital. So they could have a digital fashion experience where you can literally wear the clothing immediately. So instead of you looking at models and sitting front row, you could be the model and wear the clothes immediately. So there's also so much opportunity there that I think hasn't been explored yet by brands themselves. And once everything becomes sort of in this new reality, and obviously it threatens them a lot, but I think also it is a new way that could mean a lot of creativity for them. And like you see with some brands, great example is Balenciaga, who organized a digital fashion show game where everybody around the world could walk through the same environment and experience the clothes in real time. So I think that is sort of, because they're still creating physical collections, right? But at least they're taking a step towards this new future. And I think a lot of brands are sort of looking into that. And it's also way more exciting than just seeing another fashion show, because to be honest, it's just become a bit boring just to sit there for 15 minutes, look at people walking by. I think people right now in the 21st century are looking for something more exciting and more interactive.
And finally, of course, the digital world isn't completely innocent when it comes to pollution and carbon footprints. I mean, the internet creates more carbon emissions than aviation, for example. So, and there's been a lot of talk about how wasteful cryptocurrencies are, and mining crypto and things like that. So, where do you stand on that? How can you be purer than pure as an industry?
Yeah, I think in a way, you're never pure, in a sense, like there's always things that you will use. Like everybody uses electricity, everybody uses the internet, but should we stop using that because it's making too many carbon emissions? I think, it's sort of the question of like, where are we moving together? Because it's also pushing society forward. We're getting more, in a way, more smart solutions because we're developing ourselves as a society. Also, I always have this example that I got from one of the guys of Artifact, who literally said, like, you have this horse and suddenly you have a car. and this car is more wasteful, but are you going to go back to the horse, you know, to sort of like be okay with this kind of stuff? And it might be an extreme example, but what the industrial revolution has done for us is it has freed us from a lot of things, and it has created a lot of opportunity for us. And I think that this new revolution will do that as well. And already right now, if you look at what DeFi is doing, is blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum are still very pollutive. So they still work on proof of work, which means that they have to mine for their prime numbers, which makes them very unsustainable because they have to use a lot of energy. But if you look at proof of stake blockchains, they are actually quite sustainable because they have 99.9% less of the impact that another blockchain has, which is almost next to zero. And we're building our platform on top of Flow, which is one of those proof of stake blockchains. It's very sustainable, and with that you're able to sort of endlessly create. But the reality of life is just that every single interaction, even video calls, all these things is putting out carbon emissions. And I think what we need to look for is cleaner ways of energy, not to go back into a world where we're not using it anymore, because that's just not how society is. I think we need to figure out smarter ways of interacting with energy and being able to power our new lives in the way that we want to live them. Because to me, that is just how we're going to develop as a society. And I think that is the more we develop ourselves, I think that is just better for everyone.
Brilliant, Amber. It's been fantastic speaking to you. It sounds like a good point to end on. Thank you so much, and good luck with your fashion revolution.
Yeah, thank you so much for the space and having me on. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah, bye.